thing that I want to clarify for the local McDonald's franchise, its management, upper management, like regional and upper administrations for the LLC, and the local store management and staff and crew. My oath to Chad Cronin and the other attorneys was to they're criminal one well Chad was a criminal defense attorney, the others are not. And when you're a criminal defense attorney, your job is not like Todd Blanche to help your clients get away with crimes. It's to advise them as such, if they've done something really stupid, how to cooperate and minimize any prison time or avoid prison time, and get them into a diversion program, and make sure they're not knowing, and sometimes you got to tell them stuff they don't want to hear. Now that's also my job as an assassin, believe it or not. Assassins aren't, at least under JFK, when there was still some ethics in the special forces, who were watching their brothers and sisters get slaughtered in Vietnam because the Kennedys and Bob McNamara and probably everybody else, LBJ and everybody else in the administration, owned stock in the companies building the weapons that the United States, the weapons and whatever else, everything. The military had contracts with to supply the soldiers, and all of the commanders and you know, whoever in the war. And it turns out that not only were the weapons companies selling the weapons to the U.S., they were selling, McNamara and the Kennedys and their administration were profiting from those companies selling to the Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, through third parties. They were literally selling profiting from the weapons company, selling the weapons to the Viet Cong that were killing, or did kill, 58,000 American soldiers. Besides all the people, all the Vietnamese that were killed. And I don't think it was just the two countries. I think the French got involved and the British, and so there's a lot of special forces and other veterans and their dependents who are disgusted with this form of treason. And when a lot of it's tied to Israel, you have terrorist insurgents. When they're acting as Mossad assets and Ku Klux Klan assets, which the Klan is there to, was created to avoid ratification with the U.S. Constitution, specifically the 13th Amendment against slavery. And nobody would ever accuse McDonald's of being a slave operation. Heavy sarcasm. But back to my point. Because Homeland Security, specifically Virginia G. Piper, who's now here in town as a DHS supervisor with her false criminal allegations and fault not only against me but my father. See, she's claiming, we're not really investigating crimes. We're protecting her because her father's a child molester. When it was her friend Susan Boyce, who was high as hell on methadone and Xanax, committing sexual abuses that I'm not even going to discuss here because it's so disgusting, and her other agents, and sending people like Autumn Caton, the female reincarnation of Herman Goring, to run a honeypot. That's sexual abuse. That's sex trafficking by her. and her agents. Besides the human trafficking that turned her hospitals and her bogus cancer research foundation into the new Auschwitz, the new ovens. All of our hospitals and healthcare clinics and dentists and veterinary clinics and farms are the new ovens for people and humans, especially when they're letting zoological diseases run rampant. At least rabies is a huge issue in other third world countries. And it's huge here in our local wildlife, and it doesn't have to be. They have the resources to eradicate it and won't. So when I find it hard to believe that McDonald's, Michaela's husband, didn't know what was going on as an officer of the court. You're not going to tell me he didn't know that Dr. Lincoln's sending patients into McDonald's to try to get information out of me and send that hitman, I call him Mr. Volvo, drives a black Volvo that was hanging out here with Kenny, little Kenny, who's now just disappeared, which they had a head out on him. Had him coming in here flashing big stacks of $100 bills trying to get me in his car. And the day I had the incident with Lucia last week, and she's trying to interrogate me about my internet access, and I publicly blasted McDonald's for paying Epstein's partners in crime to spy on us illegally on our personal devices. They sent that son of a bitch out to where I was flying a sign. He motioned for me to come talk to him in his car, hands me a 50, then tries to get me in his car because he's going to get me a hotel room. I don't need to get in your car for that. You can do that over the phone with your bank card. You don't need me in the car, especially since I told him, I said, I don't even have an ID. He says, I'm just going to get the room and then you can stay there and I'll leave. Well, okay, so go get the room, come back and hand me the fucking key. Put my name on as a guest. You don't need me to get in your car for that. He probably had a syringe with a massive dose of liquid fentanyl in it to inject into my leg or arm or wherever. And once it's in IM, it's a wrap. You're gone. And Narcan, even if I had managed to call 911 to get an ambulance there, Narcan doesn't work on fentanyl. To my knowledge, they'd have to do a probably an adrenaline shot. So I don't think they would have risked that. They would have, he would have just jabbed me in the leg and pushed the plunger, and that would have been it. And then I'd have been stuck in his car. I would have maced him and then tased him. He'd have died, trust me, he'd have died right along with me, especially if that car was moving. Because when you shoot somebody up intramuscularly, it takes 20 minutes for it to start really getting any of the effects. So actually, feasibly, I could have maced him, tased him, called 911, got the adrenaline shot or whatever, probably an IV dose of Narcan. But yeah, that's what happened. And the son of a bitch, at that time, I got him talking. He got real nervous because I wouldn't get in his car. And I even suggested, like, why do I need to get in your car? That's when he's like, well, here's 100. Just give me that 50 back and I'll give you 100. And he's bragging about knowing a whole bunch of different people, including Michaela's husband, who he said worked for Homeland Security. Or Border Patrol or whatever it was. Don't tell me that he didn't know about that, Michaela's husband. Now, the good news is, since McDonald's role in this racketeering is just not paying their employees enough and, financial crap and maybe not having the safest food or the cleanest place or whatever, that's all. Your criminal liability is determined by how much harm you do to the public. They weren't doing anything deadly, not like the hospitals. So, if Homeland Security, if Piper and her shill attorney, that's Michaela's husband, approached and lied to the franchise owner, along with McDonald's corporate, about what really happened in Arizona and about all the things that were involved, and then committed all these felonies on your property if you didn't really know what was going on, don't tell. But here's the thing, it's kind of hard to not know that what they were doing here at the restaurant was tampering and obstruction, especially when they sent somebody to serve. So Abdi could find it, and then what, you charged me with a no trespass? When I called it out, you were like, oh, well, don't tell me you don't know that's obstruction. So, and I'm talking to the franchise owner. And his lawyers. They can't say they didn't know. But here's the thing. If they did that correct because they were lied to, they're going to have to prove that they were lied to. They're going to have to save all the emails, all the texts, and you got all the security cameras to capture all the conversations. They may have, I know the employees have a hell of a lawsuit. All of the customers have a hell of a class action lawsuit. And not just from this franchise. Every single franchise and every single corporate McDonald's, all of them have a hell of a class action lawsuit. But civil suits are completely different than criminal, like what we have on the hospitals for their felony HIPAA violations and felony murder and abducting children by taking them away from parents based on falsified records and shipping in drugs to get the parents addicted and the kids addicted, and then accuse them for child abuse, take the kid away, make sure they end up homeless. And then in Vermont, if your parents and you have kids and you end up homeless, you get the kids taken away, you get charged with child abuse criminally. So that's something that the franchise needs to start, and its lawyers need to start figuring out who's guilty of what, because most of your employees are going to have a hell of a lawsuit, and that may include Robin. Nick, I don't know. Michaela, I don't know. And a lot of them probably had a lot of the lower, like Robin and Michaela and everybody else, probably had to go along with that crap lest they lose their job. And they're homeless, and they end up like me. And the retaliation wouldn't start there. Then you're going to do, like, make sure they don't get cancer treatment. So corporate McDonald's probably ain't got much to file a lawsuit about, because they've been covering for the jackass in Phoenix the whole time. They knew he was charged by the EEOC, and they knew that Piper was brought in as an EEOC investigator to handle that investigation. And I think they're probably looking at multiple capital homicides. But Robin, I think I don't know about your other regional manager fella, when you were both telling me to get free food every day and do those surveys. I don't know what his name is. But all of your like store managers and then supervisors and crew probably have massive lawsuits. They're actually now trafficking victims of Epstein's Wall Street cartel because they were forced to commit felonies and allow felonies in their store. If Ashley and Michaela and whoever else didn't know these boneheads, did you know all these people? Sean and Bill Kinnear and Paula, which I know her name because Ashley told me her name from Homeland Security, the old lady that sits over there by the window and drinks a soda and plays in her journal, whatever the hell she does. She's here to stalk me. Or if you knew about it, what could you do about it? She's a fucking Homeland Security agent. You may all have be able to do what's called victims impact statements and have really massive lawsuits, civil lawsuits. I don't know. That's going to have to be sorted out between y'all and how much you cooperate. And Kuzi will be looking at everybody's texts, emails. They've been watching everybody anyway. But I'm just saying, I don't think that the franchise, and it's because the franchise owner's going to go by what its lawyers. Now, if the lawyers lied to them, the lawyers are looking at malpractice and criminal sanctions, right along with my ex-boyfriend and employer Chad Cronin and his partner and Todd Blanche and Pam Blondie and Bove and Bailey, and I'm just saying, or your managers or the staff. Lucia needs sensitivity training, and I'm not so sure she didn't already get it. She may not even need that. She made it very clear that her problem with me was quite personal. She was hateful to me all the time, long before I started doing those surveys. She acted like I was a fucking parasite. That's a white supremacist Nazi. Of course, that's exactly who these people would use to screw with somebody, so I'm not going to rule anything out, but I'm also not going to harbor any resentment. My victim's impact statement will be guided by what the evidence found by JAG, and their surveillance capabilities are beyond anything we can imagine. Kuzi and all the independent investigators for the state police and the Vermont and New York State Police. So I just want to say that so that when I come in here, I don't want anybody to feel intimidated by me being here. I'm just here. When I started coming here, it was to get something to eat, get warm, and get my thoughts together and get away from all the threats and the tampering and whatever. Oh, and when you had Ashley tell me I couldn't be here all day, the only reason why I was here all day was because it was your fucking food that gave me food poisoning and really bad diarrhea to the point that I couldn't get on a bus and go anywhere. There's no bathrooms on the bus. And when the symptoms hit, you better be able to get to a restroom within a matter of seconds. And there was only one, and since it was your food that got me like that, it was your bathroom that I was going to run to. So you kind of held me hostage and then got pissy about it. That's the only issue I had. Now, did I tell Ashley off about it? No. I did it publicly, just publicly humiliated you. Because that's how that goes. I don't appreciate gaslighting. And I let her know about the food poisoning. I've told her, I've told, I think, Shelley. I've told Nick, and yet it keeps continuing. I just spent a bunch of money on more damn Imodium AD and Pepto pills because of the food poisoning here. Y'all got problems. You need to figure them out. What I don't want is any of the employees to get in trouble for it. I don't know what's causing it, but the security videos will figure that out. And if you think that only McDonald's and its franchise and its lawyers can watch those videos, you're sorely mistaken. If you think that JAG, military JAG, investigating the assassination of a U.S. president, and the state police and the New York federal investigation, state police can't hack into your system and use your own surveillance system against you, y'all are deluded. So ain't nothing you do here private either. And since your lawyers are implicated, there's no such thing as attorney-client privilege. They're not going to tell your lawyers anything. In fact, they actually did I watched a recent, one of the attorneys that's commenting on the Epstein stuff mentioned that SDNY under Maureen Comey made sure that any attorneys affiliated with anybody tied to the Epstein criminal enterprise, whether it was the sex trafficking or whatever, they don't get told anything because they don't want it slipping out. They're investigating this as an ongoing criminal enterprise. They're not just looking at Leon Black or Peter Thiel, when y'all got Peter Thiel and Leon Black and Sergey Brin and everybody stalking me, ooh, and all of your customers basically that do those surveys that could easily just be done for points through the app so that you don't have to bring in Epstein's illegal surveillance partners in crime, yeah. But luckily, that's way above your pay grade. So, I guess my point is to let you know that I don't have any resentment or, it's up to you how you all want to handle this. I don't expect anybody to bow down and treat me any differently than they do any other customer, which means good or bad. You don't mistreat the homeless because they're homeless. Some homeless do ugly stuff. I've seen a lot of homeless people do ugly stuff, but that's an individual choice by that particular person. Doesn't mean everybody does it. Most of the homeless are victims of your racketeering by your franchise owner and corporate McDonald's.